Well, once again, we meet on YouTube, and I greatly appreciate everyone being here. From here on out, it's just going to be a matter of taking care of a few minor details, like some of these wires have insulation missing. Now, I'm not going to replace the entire wire. This is the speaker wires. I'll go ahead and put a little heat, either cover that with heat shrink, or I'll put a little bit of liquid tape over it and then put some heat shrink on it. But I will put a little bit of heat shrink on the back part of each of these pins. Some of them are beginning to get a little bit too loose for my blood. I want to strengthen them up a little bit. These plug into the connectors on the audio output transformer on the speaker. We also have, this very frayed wire right here that needs some attention. And later on, we'll go ahead and replace that wire. But for the first turn on, I'm just going to go ahead and protect it, cover it up. Another thing we're going to be attending to is this dial light housing. I'm taking it apart and I'm going to rebuild it. Don't ever trust these things. This thing has been soldered in the factory, as you can see. That's a terrible thing. But I guess they weren't getting good contact and they figured they'd solder it up and get it out, make some money with it. Anyway, don't ever trust these things. They're notorious for burning out, one of the smaller windings in the secondary of your power transformer. Slow, steady pull of current because the insides are messed up and they're shorting to this outside casing. And of course, where's the outside casing connected to? It's connected over here to ground. Open them up, get the bulbs out, look at them, rebuild them, make them better. Don't trust them. Don't trust them, okay? Another thing we're going to have to do, or I want to do before we power up this thing, I want to clean up in here a little bit, put a little bit of oil down in we're going to be taking this, eventually we're going to be taking this tuner off of here, but I want to put a little oil down in here so it turns a little better. I don't want to take any chances of anything breaking. We'll go ahead and put a little oil down in here and just basically look around and check and do a whole bunch of little last minute details. And I'll be coming back with you on this dial lamp, wherever it went. It was down here somewhere. There it is. I'm going to come back with you and show you how to do a nice, easy rebuild on the inside of that thing. One thing I didn't get to in the last video, I meant to, but it just blew right by me. One of our subscribers said that it looked like a screw was missing right here from this trimmer cap. Not so. Okay, that's just a trimmer cap position. It was never used. We also have one here that's not been used, no screw there. And we also have another one over here. Okay, so this capacitor is the only one on this particular block. That's just a blank area. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect every single wire in here. I really haven't had time to really inspect, but I'm going to do that. And I'm also going to reach in here with a brush. Down inside there's a one of the band switches that I can just barely get to, and then I'm going to go ahead and flood it real good with contact cleaner. I want to be able to have some good contact down in there. I can't get to the rest because they're just a little bit too deep down in there. I wish I could, but at least I'm going to spray right down in between those two big windings. I'll go ahead and spray it real good there. I'm going to spray it real good there. Eventually we'll open this thing up, but I think right now it's going to be okay for the first turn on to see if we get any reception. Now if we turn it on, we get no reception, and I know that everything else is good, then of course my focus will be right in here. And but right, I don't see any problems. I don't see anything glaring. I don't see anything burned. I don't see anything wires shorted. I don't see any caps that look like they boiled away. And of course, we're going to be keeping our eye on the current draw the entire time we bring this radio up. If we detect any problems at all, we're going to shut it down immediately. Okay. So I'm going to check every wire. I'm going to check every solder joint. I'm going to make sure nothing, see, like right there, that wire right there is pretty close to that terminal. We're going to pull those things away and get them away a little bit. Do things like that. Just basically inspect it all and repair anything that needs taken care of, just so y'all know, once we get this radio hopefully turned on and hopefully receiving, after that we'll shut her down, and that's when the real work begins. Okay, we want this thing to look good. All this we've been doing is just sort of basically preventive maintenance. We're trying to get this thing ready to just apply some electricity to it. So the real work is right on top of this, I hope.
146.510.
Well, right in the middle of our radio repair, and they started the 2-meter net, and they've already covered me, so I'm just kind of listening in.
Fine Arts Building here in Morrilton.
This is the fella in the next county here.
Are allowed.
Yeah, as soon as our net's over, he's fixing to run a simplex net. So he's telling everybody what the frequencies is. Okay, here we go. Let me show you something I found here. Kind of interesting. I took the solder off of here, and I pulled the bulb out. It was kind of a struggle because I had to twist it. There was a couple of solder drops down in there. But I finally was able to get the bulb out, and look what we have. I have yet to see this on an old radio. Now this was done at the factory. They soldered the wire to the bottom of the bulb. There is no spring down in the socket. So, my goodness, I talked to a friend of mine I worked with, and he said, I saw that one time on a car radio I had. I went to change the bulb and couldn't get it out. And he said, I finally messed with it and found out that they had soldered the wire to the bottom of the bulb. Holy mackerel. Now, I can't live with that. I cannot live with that. We are going to have to do something. And, it's not necessary to the power up of the radio. But, I'm not going to power this radio up without having a nice light shining through where everybody can see the dial going by. Not going to happen. No, we want this thing to look cool. So, what do we do about this? Well, I have an idea. Well, all the wires that looked kind of funky and everything have had their liquid tape put on here. This one here has been covered from quite a ways, but like I said, we're gonna go ahead and change that wire out later on. This one here looks pretty good. Now, probably before it's over, I'll change all the speaker wires too. We'll just run some brand new speaker wires up, get rid of all these things. As soon as you bend them, they crack and break open. That's a little bit too risky for me. I can take the tips off of these things with no problem. But, for the purposes of power up, they'll work. And if you recall a while back, I told you that one of the wires still had a grid cap in the connector. So this is it. I don't know if I can get that thing out of there or not. Yeah, she's turning a little bit. Maybe I can get that baby out. No, guess not. Anyway, that grid cap's got to come out of there. It won't come out one-handed. And for those of you who've never seen what a grid cap is, this goes on top of the tube, right on the top. And of course the glue that was down inside there just all broke away. But it goes over on the top of the tube on a wire that sticks out through the glass, and then this connector right here slips down over the top of it. This would be the connector for the control grid in the tube. Well, I thought I was going to be able to take this brush right here that I had bent at an angle, and I thought I was going to be able to get down in there and clean pretty much at least one of those band switches that was located right there. It's pretty easy to get to, but there's a lot of other things in the way that I don't want to damage, like these two coils right here. I don't want to be messing around down there in tight quarters with this brush. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to rely on spraying. We'll just give it a good spray out. I cut the dial light bulb off the end of this wire right here, and I've stripped it back. And what we're going to do, let me get this up out of the way, we're going to take this little split rivet. This is called a split rivet because it's split on the end, okay? You find these kinds of things in Zenith Transoceanics. For all I know, that's where this one came from. It might have come from there. I salvaged it. But it was in my, my junk drawer. And it's got a little button on the top. And that's what we're going to use for this new setup inside this light socket. I discovered a long time ago that if you take one of these plastic wall anchors and you cut it down, they make really nice little insulators for inside these light bulb sockets. Let me show you what I mean. Here I've cut it down. It was this long. I just took my dikes. Where are they at here? I just took the old dikes and I just cut across it. And you know, you might, if it's a little bit too long, you can trim it back, because these things here, they're split, making it easy to, you know, you split them a little bit, then you can trim them off with your dikes. And then they fit right inside a nice, neat little spring. Now, where did I get that spring? Well, a while back, I was walking through the maintenance section where I work, and they were throwing away a bunch of gizmos and gadgets and crap like that, and I noticed they had a whole bunch of springs in them. And I said, wow, this is kind of interesting. You know, they had contacts, and I said, you know, give me a few minutes with a screwdriver and a pair of pliers. I want those springs. And they said, yeah, no problem. Take what you want. Well, there's a whole pile of different size, different tensions. And, you know, that's just something we do as restorers. We see something, we take the time to salvage it. And this little, you know, this little pile of springs has come in handy more than once, trust me. This one spring right here was one of them. Now, I'll be cutting this spring short, probably about right in here. So let me go ahead and get that done. Now, the spring you select for this kind of an operation, you know, it can't be really super hard to compress. And at the same time, it can't be, you know, really wimpy. Now, here's a wimpy little one right here, you know, just barely touch it and it closes, you know, just too wimpy. Whereas this one, something like this, would be much too hard. You know, it's got to be just right, you know, just like the Goldilocks and the Three Little Bears. Anyway, that one is going to have just about the right tension that we need. And what we're going to do is we're going to slip it down in here like so. Okay? Then the light bulb goes in behind it. Like so. And then you push it down and twist it. And there you go. We've got our brand new insulated socket. Now all I have to do is hook up the wire, put some heat shrink on it, and you know, this thing is perfect. It's perfect. Just the right deal, okay? Now don't forget, these little wall anchors, little plastic wall anchors, work really good for this sort of thing. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and take that. First I'm going to thread everything up the wire that needs to go up the wire. And then we'll go ahead and solder this split rivet to the end of the wire where I stripped it back. Let's get cranked up on that. The end of the wire has been tinned, and now we have to slip our cowling on. Get that on there first. Then we have to slip our heat shrink on there. A little bit of length of heat shrink. We'll take that down there like so. Doesn't matter what color you use. Doesn't really matter the length. Then we have to take our little spring. I got it hooked up into another spring down here. Here we go. Okay, now I take my little spring and I slide that over there. Come on, get up through there now. Nope, she don't want to go. There we go. Now we got her. Put the spring over. Now we take the plastic thing fell down. Drats. Alright, now we take the little plastic thing and slip it over, like so. And now we go ahead and solder on this split rivet. What I'm going to do is put the split rivet over the top, and I'm going to clamp it down, pinch it down where it holds itself on there so I can go ahead and solder it, okay? The split rivet is soldered on, piece of cake all the way. You just got to make sure the rivet's nice and shiny in between those two forks. Nice and clean, nice and shiny, scrub it up real good. Nice and solid. Now we take the heat shrink. I should have probably put the heat shrink on before I put this this plastic insulator, but as it turned out, I was able to spread the insulator enough to just slide it right on through. Now we go ahead and bring this all the way up, and we're going to go ahead and shrink down the tubing. Then we'll go ahead and bring this all the way up, and then the spring all the way up, and then the housing all the way up, and it'll all be good to go. Then we'll put the light bulb in. And that takes care of that. Now I ask you, does that not look like it's factory made or what? Of course it does. Let's go ahead and get the bulb in here. And we'll be ready. Look at that. Isn't that neat? Insulated from the outside. Looks very nice. And of course someone's going to ask me, well, why is that painted black in there? I don't know. There's been a lot of discussion over this. I've removed the black on a Philco 620. I think a lot of it had to do with they did not want a very, very bright light to shine through that dial scale. I think they wanted it to be somewhat subdued to kind of give it a mellow look. Okay? Last but not least on this dial light, I bought new bulbs for it, and I was going to go ahead and put this one in. But then I went ahead and decided against it. This is the original bulb that was in there, and it tests good. It ohmed out good. I ohmed it from, my multimeter, from that silver thing right there to this gold thing, and I got 4 ohms. Plus, there's another reason I want to use this bulb. It's good. It'll light up if we're fortunate enough to get this radio to work well when we turn it on, if we get lucky. This bulb is going to light up, and I want Martin to see the exact same light coming from the exact same bulb that his grandpa saw. This would make it, if I were to use this little silver one, brand new, it just wouldn't be the same. I want him to see the same light Grandpa saw. And there it is, all set up. All I have to do is take it over here and slip it right back on there. And buddy, our dial light is good to go. Okay? The last thing I want to show you on this is you don't have to use wall anchors if you don't want to. That's up to you. They work real fine for me. You can also use number 6 nylon washers that you can buy at Lowe's over in their specialty drawers that they have. I used those for quite a while until I discovered this thing here. The reason I like to use these is because you get a little bit of support underneath them, because when you cut it. With this here, there's no support at all. Now it will insulate. This will go up underneath the lip of that little tab there that touches the center of the bulb. So in other words, it would be take the place of this one here. Okay, just to let you know, you can also use those. You can even use 2 if you want. You can double up on it, put one under another. You can super glue them together and then put them up under. It's up to you. You could put 2 of these super glued together up under it, and then put one of these up under that. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do this stuff. Okay, you just gotta think outside the box a lot. That's all. Let's talk about this fuse situation one more time. In the last video, I recommended this radio draws what, 1.13 amps? In the last video, I said to install a 1.5 fast blow. And if that's not quite what you need, if the surge current comes in and blows the fuse, or the surge voltage blows the fuse, then up it to a 1 3/4. And if that still doesn't do the job, you can go up to 2. A fast blow. Well, Brendan contacted me. He said, well, I watched your video and it looks good except for one thing. I don't agree with you on your selection of the fuse being a fast blow. He said, you're better off with a slow blow. I said, wait a minute. He said, yeah, put a 1.5 amp slow blow in there. I said, wait a minute, Brendan. I want this thing to blow quick. I want the fuse to go bam if something goes wrong. I don't want something to burn out in here before the fuse burns out. And he said, no, it doesn't work that way. Now, here's his explanation. He said, John, because 1.5 amps is very close to the maximum that this radio should be drawing, however, being a slow blow, it will take the momentary surges when you turn the radio on. However, it will blow if you exceed its 1.5 amp rating for a given amount of time. So he's saying that it'll absorb any surge voltages that occur to it, but at the same time, once you get above 1.5 amps, it'll blow. Which sounds very logical to me. I always pay attention to what Brendan says. He also said that where a normal 2 amp fuse, over time it will degrade and blow out all on its own just from handling the surges. On top of that, the radio could be drawing 1.9999 amps forever and the fuse would never blow. Good point. Very good point if I had a 2 amp in there. And he said, but whatever was drawing the excess current would certainly blow, and that's for sure. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to change my philosophy about these fuses. From now on, we're going to go with slow blow. Now, normally I put a 1 amp fuse in there, you know, but this radio draws over an amp. So right now I've got a 2 amp in there because I don't have any slow blows. I went to the place today to look around where I buy all my fuses, and I'll be darned, you know, they had everything I needed except a slow blow fuse in the 1.5 amp rating. So this will work for a turn on since I'm bringing it up on the variac, you know, nice and slow, and I'll be watching the current draw and all that stuff. So that'll get us by the first hurdle, but later on we're going to change that fuse out. Hopefully at the same time I get rid of this terminal strip with that 10 watt resistor, we'll change them both out at the same time. I'm in the process of spraying down there on those contacts on the band switch, and while I'm doing that, of course, I'm rotating the band switch around. I'm rotating it as far as it'll go in both directions while I spray. Now I'm really flooding it with this QD electronic cleaner. I'm really flooding those contacts because I can't get to them right now, and I want them to work when it comes time to power the radio. So I'm not sparing any expense on this. I want that stuff clean. I've got the speaker out of the cabinet, and now it's time to check out the audio output transformer and the field coil. So let me see, to check out the field coil, all we have to do, let me see, there's your field coil right there. All we have to do is check from this point, it'll go down to the field coil and up out to here. All I gotta do is measure between the 2 outside connectors and see if I get any continuity. That ought to be easy enough. Alright, these are our 2 outside connectors, this one and this one. So let's go ahead and hook that up. This will be the last thing we do before we have to, before we can fire this baby up. Well, there's that one connected. Let's go ahead and put our multimeter there. Yes, yes, we have continuity. How about that? Alright, 1,000 ohms. So we'll go ahead and color that baby in. That's good. Field coil is good. I'm a happy camper. Alright, now let's go ahead and test the audio output transformer. We should be able to measure from the second one all the way up through to the third one, the 2 inside connectors, which would be, let me see, which would be this one. Get this clip off of here so we can see better. It'd be these 2 inside ones, okay? Alright, let's hook one side up here. By the way, the speaker's in really good shape. Someone has done a little gluing on it in the past, though. Alright, now let's go ahead and test it. Uh-oh. That's not good. That's not good, people. We do not have continuity between that primary. That's not good at all. Alright, apparently either the primary is open, but we got to figure out where it is now. It could be this upper half right here, or it could be the lower half. So let's take the outside one and measure it over to the second one. Alright, take the outside one. We're going to check the lower half of this thing. That's good. So I've got it connected to the outside one right now. And if the lower half is good, it'll come up through, come around, and I'll stick my probe there. We should have continuity. Let's see what happens. Nothing. Oh, nothing, nothing, nothing. Come on, people. It's got to be something there. Let me take it down a notch. Let's try it again. Nothing. Ah. Alright, well, so far, apparently the secondary is open. Be just my luck. I mean, the bottom half is open. Be just my luck. The top half's open too. Alright, let's check between the 2. Let's check from here up and go through the top part to over here. We'll connect our black lead to that one now. Let's see what we get there. Alright, okay. Well, there you go. There you go. Son of a gun, I didn't want this to happen. What we've got is, this is all good. I just verified that with the multimeter. The bottom half is open right there. I've got an open. I'm going to try resoldering that joint there. Maybe it'll help. I don't know. But right now it appears that we're going to need a new audio output transformer. Alright, I've touched it up a little bit with this hot soldering iron. Added a tiny bit of solder. Looks real good. Let's go ahead and touch it now and see if we get any continuity. Nothing. Zero continuity. Son of a gun! The bottom half of our primary is open somewhere in here. Well, that's it. And, you know, that's our delay. You know, sooner or later I knew we'd have to run into something. Anyway, that's it for now. I appreciate everybody watching once again, even though it ended on a negative note here. Until next time, this is John.